Hello everybody, so I just watched the Sonic movie and it was great. Even though I'm a hardcore Sonic fan, I think I would have enjoyed the movie even if I wasn't. Probably not as much, but it was genuinely a solid film and there was a lot they could do wrong with it and they didn't, so I am very happy with the results of this film. But I'm not here to talk specifically about the film in like a review-esque aspect. I will on my other channel, which you can check out in the cards above and the end card once you're done watching this video. But today I want to talk more about how this movie will improve the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise as a whole. So I don't know if this is a controversial opinion or not, but I do think it's based on a lot of fact that Sonic in the past 10 years has not been the greatest. We had Sonic Generations, we had Sonic Mania, and I even liked Sonic Lost World. But the franchise has been stagnant for quite a while outside of social media presence. I don't really see many, kids getting into Sonic. I don't see the fan base growing as big as it did during the 2000s, and the game releases have slowed down by quite a bit. We also had that Sonic Boom bump in the road that I think was a pretty big mistake in terms of the franchise's direction. Not that the TV show was bad, because it wasn't. But as a reboot for Sonic and for kids to get into the franchise, I feel like this new movie does such a better job than Sonic Boom. Because number one, the transition between modern Sonic and Sonic in the movie is much less harsh than the transition between modern Sonic and Boom Sonic. So I feel like old fans of Sonic can connect to this movie Sonic better than they could the Sonic Boom Sonic. That wouldn't have been the case if the old design was still in the movie, so serious props to the animation studio and everybody who was behind the redesign of Sonic. I feel like it saved this movie in so many ways. But the reason I'm bringing all of this up is that I felt like the series was pretty directionless, the franchise as a whole, over the past 10 years. Obviously, we had the Sonic Boom stuff, which seemed to be going pretty alright, but then there was also the modern Sonic stuff that was happening at the same time, like Sonic Runners and other Sonic games that were coming out, and it felt kind of like confusing to the overall consumer base that would want to get into Sonic. Whereas movie Sonic and regular Sonic, they're obviously different to tell a different story within the movie, an origin story, but they're not different enough to where there's this like hard line between the two Sonics. Like, if a casual fan saw movie Sonic and then they saw game Sonic, they would assume, it's pretty much the same character. And they can be used in advertising pretty interchangeably, whereas Boom Sonic had a pretty distinct design that was a lot different from modern Sonic. You would have to make that distinction of Boom Sonic versus normal Sonic. Basically what I'm trying to get at is that I think this movie is really important for the franchise because it's another reboot, but this reboot is actually successful in what a reboot would ideally want to accomplish. For people who don't know anything about Sonic, probably primarily kids who will be enjoying this film, this is a great introduction to the character, a lot of his traditional character traits, even though he does act differently in the games versus this movie, and is essentially a different character in a lot of ways. A lot of the core aspects of why Sonic is such an enjoyable character is still present in this Sonic, and I feel like in a way that can resonate with not only old fans of the character like me, but people who are brand new to the franchise. And this origin story setup shows the character in a way where you don't really feel like you need to play any of the old games or watch any of the old TV shows or anything like that to get invested into the character. I can see this movie birthing a lot of new Sonic fans, and with that finally giving a proper direction for the franchise, since over the past 10 years Sega has really been banking on nostalgia and trying to get those old fans who played Sonic in the classic days back to the franchise now, which I'm sure worked to an extent. But I feel like the more preferable approach would be to try and get new fans rather than get ex-fans to become fans again through nostalgia. I feel like this film also grounds the Sonic universe in a way that the franchise really needed for quite some time. I feel like Sonic's been all over the place. There's Wisps, there's the Sonic Forces Resistance, there's all these fucking places and weird things that Sonic does. And what this franchise does is really just ground Sonic in a world where it's like, hey, there's multiple different worlds, you can teleport to them via the rings, and it's just as simple as that. It simplifies the Sonic lore in a way that is digestible to new viewers, but also stays true to the source material for the most part, while obviously taking a couple creative liberties in the way the universe is set up, like he did in Sonic Adventure and Sonic X, etc., make a lot more sense, as well as ties in a concept from the games and kind of expands upon it, that being the bonus stage rings at the end of Sonic 1 and some of the other classic games. Being a teleporter, Sonic actually uses those rings to teleport in the movie, and I also find it cool that Sonic's little bag of rings gives a more practical explanation of why when Sonic gets hit, he drops a bunch of rings. There's a particular scene in the movie where Sonic gets hurt by Dr. Eggman while he's holding his bag of rings, and then there's all his rings all over the floor. Then once he gets up, he quickly picks them all up, and it really reminds me of getting hit in the game and then having to pick up the rings afterwards. I feel like it's a nice way to add that video game mechanic into a film in a way that narratively makes sense. So with all this new lore and origin set up for Sonic, I feel like it's a really good starting off point to finally make the Sonic franchise popular again and start selling games better and start selling the franchise to new people better. I think Sonic Team could make a really good video game based on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie rules. The game could go through the same story as the movie, or, it could be taking place at a different time within the movie's universe and use the same rules as like throwing a ring to make a portal, or Sonic actually having this legitimate energy that he can use to like attack people with his hands or do a more powerful spin dash or something like that. I feel like there's a lot of potential now with the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise after this movie released, to where before this movie released, I felt pretty burnt out with Sonic. I felt like the franchise was pretty aimless, and all we were doing at this point was just praying that a decent video game would come out from Sonic Team at some point. Obviously, it did with Mania and Generations, but that's only 2 games out of the last 10 years that was really good from the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. So personally, I kind of fell out of the franchise. As a active fan, I still enjoyed the old games and the character and all that, but all the new stuff that was coming out in regards to Sonic, I really didn't care about too much. But now that this movie has released and I've seen it, I am avidly invested in the character again. I think this new adaptation of Sonic, despite the character itself being different from how he is in the games, it carries over a lot of the same core aspects of the Sonic the Hedgehog character, and honestly, I think I prefer young, immature, hyperactive Sonic over cool, calm, and collected Hedgehog who happens to be fast. I feel like his fast nature suits an energetic kid rather than, a very seasoned hero in terms of personality traits versus, powers within the character. Either way, that's about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to this Sonic nerd talk about the future of the franchise and how much he loved the Sonic movie. As I said earlier in the video, I will have my full thoughts on the movie as well as showcasing other people's thoughts on Twitter over on my other channel where I normally cover YouTube drama being expressed through Twitter, but since I'm such a huge Sonic fan, I took a bit of a detour and instead still looked on Twitter but for Sonic movie impressions instead. So check that out if you're interested. Either way, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.